Welcome to Vision to Venture. I'm Eddie, and I'm here to uncover the realities of scaling and building a tech startup. Each week, I speak to leaders within the tech space with their insights and advice on how to found, fund, and frame a tech startup. So make sure to follow and subscribe to never miss an episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of Vision to Venture. Today we're joined by Gennaro Tedesco, AI team lead at FinLink. With a PhD in theoretical physics and extensive experience in machine learning, Gennaro leads a team developing AI solutions that streamline financial services for banks and mortgage advisors. Hello, Gennaro. How are you doing today?
Hi, Eddie. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very fine. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure having you. Thanks for joining. So as I mentioned in the intro, you have a PhD in theoretical physics. This is quite a leap from machine learning and document intelligence. What motivated change, and was this shift intentional, or did you discover your passion along the way?
Yeah, this is a good question to start with. As you mentioned, I come from an academic background. I have a PhD in theoretical physics, which I received by the University of Göttingen in Germany. And then I made a switch to the industry. So during my studies and during my PhD, I focused on almost pure mathematical side of physics. So I was dealing with highly theoretical matters and pure mathematics at some point, which I enjoyed very much. And it is one of my passions, and I hope to get back to it maybe in the future where I will be older and hopefully wiser. How did I decide to make the switch? So it was a conscious decision that I took throughout my PhD, motivated by two aspects mainly. On the one hand, there was a professional aspect where although I enjoyed the time in academia very much, I wanted to move to topics that might have more practical application. So I was curious to understand how manipulating data and using mathematics can serve, so to speak, real life problems. So the idea to switch to industry, not necessarily to finance, but to any domain or any industry where you could use statistics or machine learning or similar ideas to solve concrete problems was very appealing. And I wanted to try this new challenge. I wanted to try this. So it was motivated by the need to move to more practical areas to apply my mathematical skills. There was also another side which was more personal, and I started growing more and more disillusioned throughout my PhD towards academia per se. I saw that academia is a very nepotistic environment and less clean than I expected it to be, and I didn't want to be part of that. So both for this moral and personal reason and for professional reasons, I consciously decided to make the switch at some point.
That's fair enough. And especially as after going through all of academia, and it takes so long, doesn't it? Especially with a PhD. So you moved from an individual contributor role into a management position where you're now leading a team of software engineers and researchers. Could you share what that transition was like for you?
Yes, gladly. This transition was, I have to say, very smooth and quite unintentional. After leaving academia, I have worked for dozen of years as machine learning or data scientist engineers, whatever you want to call it, as an independent contributor. And then slowly I started taking on, so to speak, leadership of projects. So I started being assigned big projects or projects that I would have to carry and justify by myself. And slowly, some people were being added to such projects. So this was somewhat unintentional transition from working by yourself or for someone to slowly leading a project and leading a small team of individuals who are reporting to you, or in general that you have to assign work to. I have to say this was also thanks to my previous employers who gave me the opportunity to transition into this role. So they gave me the opportunity, of course, to manage project by myself, to manage individual by myself. So if I look back, I didn't necessarily want to be involved in management. So it isn't a choice that I decided to do at some point, but it happened quite smoothly. And so far, it has worked out quite well, I have to say. I have to say that at some point, this transition requires a shift in perspective, because you have to understand and make the conscious decision that you are now managing a team of individuals, and your tasks will be shifting from doing development yourself, producing code or solving problems by yourself, to managing how certain problems or certain solutions fit into the problem that you have to deliver to someone, maybe your customers, or maybe your boss or the boss of your boss. So there is a shift in perspective that you have to consciously make at some point, and you have to let go a bit of the urge to always be closely involved into each step of the development. So you have to start trusting the people who do development for the team, and worry about different types of problems, which is fitting everything together into the actual business problems that your team is required to solve.
How many people is it that are on your team that you're currently leading?
At some point, so this the team that I'm currently leading has 6 to 7 people, software engineers, researchers, scientists, back-end, front-end. So we have designers, we have product managers. So I am responsible for the team as a whole. Not all of them are directly reporting to me, but you are responsible for the product of this team. And the more people there are, of course, the more places you have to be involved into.
Absolutely. And so what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you face when leading a team, and how would you deal with these?
Interesting questions. I would say that one of the challenges when moving from an individual contributor's role to a leading position is that you are now being judged according to different criteria. You are being judged according to the performance of the team, not according to the quality of your own development, which means that you will be called upon the results of the team. Your goal is that the team delivers well, that the team functions well, and that it solves the problems that are assigned to them. There are in this a lot of ingredients that are also slightly non-technical. There are a lot of dynamics and personal ingredients among the members of the team, which for the good or for the bad are now yours to deal with and yours to manage. So even if you have a team of highly skilled individuals, but they don't get along together, eventually this will create friction or it will create delays, and you will have to justify this. So the biggest challenge as you post this is that as a manager, you are being judged for the outcomes of the team, independent of how good you are as a developer, of how good you are as a person. All these bits matter less when compared to the outcome that the team is producing. So you are responsible for the good or for the bad, for the outcome of the team, and you have to solve all the problems that may get in the way, whether they are technical or whether they are personal or situational.
Does this happen very often at all?
It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, and it's part and parcel of working in firms, in industry.
Part of the role.
Yes, so I wouldn't say that it is specific to some particular teams or it is specific to some particular domain. It is specific to human nature, I would say. And there can come situations where for one reason or the other, results don't go as expected, and you have to find a way to make them work. And
absolutely.
this is, what I find a little challenging, because sometimes it isn't one specific thing, or it isn't the fault of one specific component. But nevertheless, yeah, you have to find a way to make it work. So, and also sometimes this, as a manager, as a team lead, you are sitting between your team developing and researching, and upper management just dealing with business requirements or revenues or similar things. So you are in the role to have to translate these business requirements into technical deliverables for your team. And you are pushed in different directions. On the one hand, there is upper management pushing towards certain type of goals. On the other hand, there is your individuals, your team pushing towards a different direction because maybe this isn't feasible, this solution isn't technically feasible, and so on. And you have to find a compromise between the two parties. So it's like sometimes being between two fires, and you have to pull right and left and find the balance. So I think that the perfect balance is where when both parties are equally unhappy. So that's where a negotiation worked out well.
So managing a team often requires a shift from being a technical expert to delivering leadership and soft skills. What management courses or strategies have been the most impactful when helping you make that shift?
Yes, so I have to say that I was lucky enough that my previous employers offered me the possibility to go through management courses and management classes. I found this quite useful, especially for dealing with common situations that may require sometimes a step back. For example, when you have to do performance reviews, or where you have salary negotiations, or when you have conflicts, all these situations where it's less about the work itself, but more about the friction that can arise among people, or the friction that can arise between direct reports and you as a supervisor. There are some, I don't want to call them techniques, but there are some things that, some strategies, as you said, that can help ease down these situations. And what I generally do is, for example, when it comes to reviews or performances or all these nervous topics, first of all, I generally have very frequent one-on-ones with my team members, also with my supervisor, myself, because my general idea is that during a performance review, during a general conversation, none of what you discuss must be unexpected. So a good review or a good discussion is a discussion where most of the topics are already known to both parties and have already been discussed to both parties. So this generally helps people shake the stress away when you go into a discussion and you already know that most of the topics have already been discussed. So there is nothing unprepared that strikes you as a surprise. So I do general check-ins and I do frequent check-ins so that by the time we come to performance reviews or to development plans, most things are already discussed and are already expected. Another thing that I have found useful, both when dealing with my direct reports and also dealing with my supervisor myself as a report to my supervisor, is that it's very practical sometimes to break the discussions, for example, into performance, one discussion, and development, another discussion, so that you don't combine the stress of the two things, and so that people can separate what is personal performance in the previous quarter to what can be, for example, pay rises, salary increases, or development for the next quarter. And you don't overlap the two topics, because sometimes due to budgeting reasons and other things, very practically, the two things are disconnected. So it is more beneficial and more practical to break them down into different meetings so that also you and your team can prepare for them. Sometimes it happens that you just have to stop discussions and break discussions because it's getting a little heated or people are unhappy, and it is fine to do so. So I had situations where both as a direct report talking to my supervisor and also with my team, there were some disagreements, there were some shift of ideas, and I saw that people tended to become a little nervous without addressing the problem itself. So in those situations, I tend to say, okay, let's continue this discussion tomorrow so that we can take a little break. It's been a bit heated for both of us. So these situations do occur. We don't have to hide them. We just have to minimize them and elapse them maybe through different days so that people can take a break and breathe on their feelings and concentrate on the actual point of discussion. So I found this beneficial so far. I don't know if this is a general strategy or so, but this is something that I was taught or I was shown during some management courses, and it has helped so far, I have to say.
It's worked. It's been beneficial. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So your team is developing software that helps banks and mortgage advisors manage loans. How does AI and document intelligence improve the efficiency or accuracy of processes in the financial industry?
Yes, this is the $1 million question. So what we are striving to do in my company is we want to turn redundant manual work into efficiency. So my company, Finlink, moment produces software that helps banks and also financial advisors go through the process of financing a mortgage. Now, this process can be very tedious and very manual because from the starting point where you have to start collecting information about yourself and about the person you want to use as advisor, then you have to forward this information to the bank, then you have to get approved. So there are a lot of steps where currently it is the objective of, well, it is the task of a single person to collect all this information, to review this information, and to make sure that all is regulated and in the format that is suitable for the organization, for the bank to provide the mortgage. What we are trying to do is we are turning this manual process into automation so that we can help advisors and bank focus on the actual business rather than on the technology. So we are trying to put the technology out of their way by automating a lot of these operations so that they can focus on the customers and on the business. In particular, what we are doing, we are helping with document intelligence, which means that whenever you upload documents and whenever you search for information in documents, this information is automatically provided to you. So you don't have to manually fill the information into your software of choice. You can focus on the actual problem at hand, which is, for example, finding the best mortgage for your customer, rather than having to spend a lot of time just filling information and looking for information. So to answer your general question, we turn a lot of redundant manual work into automation. This, on the one hand, reduces the layer of human error because we only have the human review the data that the machine has extracted. And on the other hand, allows the human, both the client and the advisor or the bank, to focus on the actual business problem rather than focusing on the technology.
I mean, you're right with when you just mentioned it's just a long process, and it sounds like it's going to be a really useful thing for this to implement in that process. I've just done it myself, going through getting a mortgage, and my God, it's a long old process. So to know that obviously there's some people like you that are building something that is going to be able to sort of speed up that process maybe and make it just a little bit easier and quicker and hopefully less like just more stress-free.
Yes.
That's incredible. So the financial sector is highly regulated and accuracy is critical. How do you ensure the AI models you develop are robust enough to meet the rigorous standards of the industry?
Yes, this is also quite an interesting, good question. So, two things. Let me see if I can give a reasonable answer to this question by separating into two aspects. So I will start by a more general consideration about machine learning models per se, and then I will address the practicalities of the question in the financial sector. So the general answer and the general problem, not problem, but the solution that the machine learning is offering is that machine learning models work well in average. This means that although the single predictions on the single data point might sometimes be offset, if you give me 1 million data points, the predictions that a machine learning model, or in general, a numerical model that is based on patterns, the predictions that such models provide are on this million of data much more accurate and much better than what a human can do. So the question that needs to be posed is not, is this model good enough, but is this model better than a human? So take, for example, all banks and financial companies that are using machine learning models for fraud detection or to analyze their portfolio or to come up with strategies. They feed these models to millions of data, well, hundreds, thousands of data, maybe not millions. And what they want to have as an answer is an order of magnitude, a strategy that they can implement. So if I have a portfolio of 1,000 different companies, and the model says that of these 1,000 different companies, 20 companies are about to default on the payments, maybe not all these 20s are exactly the 20 that will default, but I have an order of magnitude of what I have to be prepared for, where I have to invest my money and what I have to do. So the single predictions might be off, but in average, machine learning models tend to give more accurate predictions than humans. It's the same example. So in football, they have introduced now automatic offside detection technology. So in some leagues, for example, in Serie A, in the Italian league, they have this semi-automatic way to detect offside when the player kicks the ball. Then they start calculating the frames and they align the players with the frames and they detect whether a player is offside or not. Of course, in this case, you could say, okay, but what if the frame is wrong? What if the machine didn't align the frames correctly? Yes, for the single cases, this may happen, but in the course of an entire football season, offside technology gives better prediction than linesman technology manually detecting the offside. And this is also what I want to say about general machine learning in finance. So the models that we use are better in average than the human predictions. Now, coming to your specific question, but what if there is this single case and what if the prediction is wrong? How do you go about it? So generally, machine learning in the finance sector is used to give advices for strategies that are always reviewed by humans eventually. So in most industries, the models don't take the final decisions. The model gives a suggestion on a decision that then is up to the human to confirm. So as I said also before, they try to automate part of the strategic and decisional process, and then the human eventually can always have a veto power to deny this or not. Yes, in order to make sure that we don't take wrong decisions in the financial sector, humans are eventually always checking what the machine recommends. And generally speaking, another thing that helps with robustness of predictions is you want to have, so nowadays the algorithmic part of machine learning is well established. The algorithms are good enough. What you need to ensure is that the data that you're using to train your algorithm are a good representation of the data that you're going to predict on. So the algorithms are well, but the use cases and the data may be heterogeneous at some point, and you may have mispredictions just because the data that you're predicting on don't represent the data that you have trained on. So generally what we do is we try to have data that are up to date and that represent the business problem at hand that we are trying to solve.
So what advice would you personally give to someone that's looking to make a similar transition from a technical role to a leadership position in the tech industry?
What advice I would give? Maybe if I give an advice, I will look back at this podcast in 10 years and realize that all is wrong. I don't think there is a general advice because domains can
Okay.
be different, situations and people can be different. But one thing can be said is that um, if you think that you want to make this transition, to just try it out. So
Fair enough.
experiment with it, try it out, ask your employer if you could have the opportunity to take on more of a leadership role, which starts by leading some projects, maybe by having some cross-functional supervision with other members from other teams. And if this works well, and if you're good at it, at some point it will happen. So again, just try it out to
Give it a go.
see. Yes.
Yeah, just throw yourself into it.
Yes, so it's sometimes really up to the individual to see if you fit in these particular shoes. There are people who just don't like it at all. It can also be that you like it for some part of your career. It doesn't mean that this has to be um, a decision that you have to carry on for the rest of your life. Maybe you want to experiment with supervision role for, I don't know, a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, and then you want to go back to an individual contributor. So this is also a path that I've seen people take. I've seen people moving into management for some time and then going back to development or vice versa. So yeah, I think that if you want to try it out, there are opportunities in the industry to try out, and yeah, different people just have to see how they fit into these shoes.
I would agree as well. Obviously, I'm not in that position, but I feel like if anybody wants to try something, just biting the bullet and going for it is obviously one of the best ways to get over that sort of whatever, like the reservation, and just try it out. And if it's not for you, then I feel like it's something that's something that you would know very soon after. So looking ahead now, how do you see AI, particularly document intelligence, shaping the future of financial services, and what excites you the most about the direction this field is headed?
One thing that is truly remarkable is that there is a lot of room for applications of machine learning and data science in general in this domain. So, as I also said in the beginning, there are a lot of processes in the financial world that are still strictly manual. And they turn the attention of the single advisor or of the single person who's doing the work into doing the technical work rather than focusing on the business. So what I find most exciting is that there is a lot of room for data to really contribute to automation. So the goal of machine learning is to turn redundant monkey work into automation so that people can focus on the actual outcome of their business problem. I think that this comes to companies and organizations being disciplined enough to have, for example, curated data sets so that they can train the machine learning algorithms to the problems that they're trying to solve, and also to understand that the software they are developing must go hand in hand with the machine learning solution that they are developing. Sometimes it may happen that you develop a solution which is machine learning solution which does not integrate too well with the workflow of your software. So the users see this solution but are not able to use it efficiently just because your software doesn't provide for it or doesn't address it well. So the challenge, but also the part that can be easily improved, is to have software that goes hand in hand with the machine learning part. Sometimes, for example, I see with my email clients, I'm trying to write emails or so. Most email clients nowadays have this automatic AI functionality that can write emails for you or so. And this is often presented as, okay, if you click here and if you pay 20 cents more, then I can give you this. I don't want this to be, I don't want to reach for this. If the solution exists, just give it to me. And currently, I see that AI solutions are being provided by companies, but they're always
Mhm.
behind either a paywall or behind something that I, as a user, have to do extra. If I am writing my email, I'm just writing my email. I'm not stopping the email to click a button to
Yeah.
subscribe and to have this. This is just a silly example of a lot of other things that are in our softwares. I don't want to have to go out of my way to use a machine learning solution. I want the machine learning solution to be integrated in the software that I'm currently using because I don't want to interrupt my train of thought. This is what I think is lacking at the moment, not in a
Okay.
specific industry, but in the way machine learning is commercialized. And I think that this is easily solvable by companies and firms and people in general being more disciplined about the fact that software must go hand in hand with machine learning.
Yeah.
I think that this is also quite of a brand new area. We haven't had this in place for too long, so we also don't know how to market it. We don't know how to serve it to the user. So I don't want to be too critical. It's just that it takes some time for people to realize that this has to happen. And this is also what excites me the most because I'm sure that in a couple of years, at some point, we will come to a point where all the solutions that we provide from the numerical side will be integrated into the software, so they will be at people's hand to use.
And so still looking ahead as well, um, what's next for you in terms of personal or professional growth? And are there any new areas you're exploring or skills that you are eager to develop?
I have been always curious about the application of machine learning in game theory, in solving strategies for either zero-sum games,
Mhm.
chess, Go, checkers, or also for strategic games like card games or video games that have been there has been a lot of work being done in the past years by Google DeepMind and similar companies, where we have seen that machine learning can indeed help with uh, strategizing some of these highly complex games, and also I don't want to say solving, but bringing zero-sum games like chess to an extent where machine predictions can really outperform humans very much. This is a field that I'm curious about just because I don't have much experience in it, so I didn't have the opportunity to work in it too much. I also don't have such a wide knowledge of it, so this is something that if I had a spare time on my hands, I would invest time into this. Unfortunately, it isn't too easy because there aren't too many of such companies. There aren't a lot of companies and jobs that deal with game theory. Some work is being done by Google, by these big companies, but there aren't too many doing this.
Mhm.
So probably there aren't too many job opportunities in this field. But as I said, if I had some spare time on my hands, or perhaps in the future, I am very curious to turn into this sector and to do some work in it.
That's what you would do. Amazing. That's incredible. Well, that's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for all of your insights and everything that you have shared with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure and extremely interesting. And it's great that you are helping with figuring out a way to make getting mortgages easier because they are a hassle and they take way too long. So I think that's you're doing some incredible work. And I wish you all the best of luck in the future, in your current position and any other future roles that you end up going into and whatever you do in your career, Gennaro. So thank you so much for joining me today on Vision to Venture.
It's been a pleasure, Eddie. Thank you too. Bye bye.
An absolute pleasure. Take care. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Vision to Venture. If you're listening, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And if you're watching, like and subscribe to listen to more inspiring stories from leaders in the tech space.